Today we're going to learn some of the terms that you will need for this chapter where we're looking at describing data. So some of these terms you might recognize. The first one is mean. In math, mean means the average. And just a reminder, to find the average, you add up all the terms and then you divide by how many terms that you have. The median, if you think about the median of a road, median means middle. So the median is the middle term, or the middle number in a list of numbers. Mode means something that happens most often. Sometimes in a set of data or a list of numbers, there's no mode. Sometimes there's more than one mode, but mode means most. Okay, I'm going to move this down. We have the term minimum. Minimum means the smallest term. So I'm just going to write smallest. Maximum means then the largest or the biggest. All right, largest or the biggest term or the biggest number in a set of data. Quartile, quartile 1, there's two quartiles. Quartile 1 means the middle of the first half of data. And after we write down all these terms, we'll do several examples so you can see what these terms look like in a set of data. So quartile 1 is the middle of the first half of your data. And we often see that oftentimes see that written as Q1. Quartile 3 is then the middle of your second half of data. And we often see that written as Q3. Quartile 3. The 5-number summary then would be your minimum, your Q1, the middle of the first half of data, your median, the middle term, the Q3, or the third quartile, quartile 3, and the maximum. It's called a 5-number summary because if we look at those numbers, we can kind of get a good idea of what your data looks like. The range would be your maximum term minus your minimum term. So it's the difference between your maximum and your minimum term. Interquartile range is IQR. Interquartile range. And it's kind of like a range. It's interquartile range. And that would be the difference of Q3 and Q1. So Q3 minus Q1, IQR, interquartile range. So these are the terms that you're going to hear me use most often this unit. Let's do some examples so you can see what it looks like with a set of data. The first example, find the 5-number summary of the places 10 people in your class have lived. So let's just make up some numbers here. So let's say one person has lived in one place, one person has lived in 3. Let's do 1, 1, 2, 5. Say someone has lived 7 different places. 2, 1, and 3. Okay, so first of all, you'll be given a set of data. And whenever you're looking at a 5-number summary, you'll want to put things in order. And my workspace quit on me, so let me restart. Okay, so let's go to step 1, which is put the numbers in order. And I will write those down for you. Okay, actually I want to move this down a little bit more. Okay, so if I put those numbers from the previous page in order, it looks like this. We have a 1, commas. We have 4 ones, I believe. And we have 2 2s, 2 3s, a 5, and a 7. Okay, first step, find and circle the median. The median is the middle number, and so oftentimes it helps to cross out numbers. So cross off 1 from each end until we find the middle. And if there's 2 numbers in the middle, you average them, or find the middle of 2 and 2. You know the middle of 2 and 2 is just 2, but if you're to average them, 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So sometimes it's really easy to see the middle of 2 numbers, but if it's not, average them. Add them up, divide by 2. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just write in this middle 2 right here is our middle number. It's not in our data set because we had to average the numbers, so I'm going to write it right here. Next, let's find Q1, which is the median of your first half of data. So the median of your first half of data, you look at everything below the median. So if this is the median, we look at all the terms below that. We don't include it. We look at everything below, and we find the middle. So again, it might help to cross out. And we can see here that 1 is the Q1, or the middle of our first half of data. Q3 is the median of the second half of data. So again, look at everything above the median. You don't include the median, so we're looking at these numbers. Again, you can cross off if that helps you, and we'll see that 3 is the middle of our second half of data. So we're going to call that Q3. So this is Q3, this is Q1. This 2 right here is the median. Often you'll see that as Q2. And then for the 5-number summary, we also need the minimum and the maximum. So the minimum is 1, the maximum is 7. All right, now that we have our 5-number summary, I'm just going to list that. And I'll list in order: min, Q1, Q2, Q3, and max. And then we're going to make a box and whiskers plot. So we have 1, 1, 2, 3, 7. Here's our 5-number summary. Actually, I'm going to give myself more room here. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 7. All right, let's make a box and whiskers plot. We're going to start by making a number line. And this is pretty easy. The minimum is 1, so I'm just going to go by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, to make a box and whiskers plot, we're going to put dots where the min and the max are. And then where the Q1, Q2, and Q3, or Q1 median, Q3 are, we'll put lines. Now here it just so happens that the minimum and Q1 are the same, so I'll put a dot and a line there. And then we have 2 is our median, and 3 is Q3. Okay, so what does this mean? Now usually it's divided into 4 parts, but you can see that since this is the same, it's only divided into 3. And so the reason it's called quartiles is like a certain percentage of our data is in each quartile. So here, right here in this quartile, here's 25% of our data. Here's another 25% of our data. And this time, this usually is 25% of our data, but here it's 50% of our data. So you can see how that's broken down. Let's try another one where Q1 and the min aren't the same. Create a data set of 8 numbers, find the 5-number summary, and create the box and whiskers plot. Okay, I'm going to give myself more room here. Okay, so I just made up some numbers, and I put them in order just to make it easier. But again, if they weren't in order, you would just put them in order. So I chose 10, 10, 12, 13, 14, 20, 22, and 25. So here are 8 numbers. Okay, first step, find the median, the middle. So again, if you cross off numbers, again, there's 2 in the middle here. So if there's 2 in the middle, you average them. So we can add 13 plus 14 and divide by 2, or we know that the middle of 13 and 14 is 13.5. So here is our median, or Q2. To find Q1, we look at the middle of the first half of data. And again, here there's 2 numbers, so we're going to find the middle. What's the middle of 10 and 12? Well, we know that's 11, but if we didn't know, we could add 10 plus 12, which is 22, and divide by 2, and that would give us the 11. Okay, so here again, in our data set, Q1 might not be a number in our data set, but 11 is the middle of the first half of data. Let's find Q3. It's the middle of our second half of data. So again, you can cross off if there's 2 numbers in the middle, you average them, or think, what is the middle of 20 and 22? And we know that's 21. So here's 21 as our Q3. This is our Q1. And then we have our min and our max. So our 5-number summary is 10, 11, 13.5, 21, 25. Let's make a number line for that, and this one I'm going to go up by 5s. So here will be 0, 5, this will be 10, 15, 20, and there's 25, and here's 30. All right, to make a box and whiskers plot, we start with the min and the max, and we're going to put dots. So I'm going to put dots at 10 and a dot at 25. And then for Q1, Q2, and Q3, or Q1 median and Q3, we draw lines. So at 11, I'm going to draw a line. At 13.5, I'm going to draw a line. And at 21, I'm going to draw a line. And you can see that this box and whiskers plot looks like this. And again, they're quartiles because it's divided into 4 parts. And we would say, all right, 25% of our data is right here, 25% of our data is here, 25% of our data is in here, and 25% of our data is in here. So there's what a box and whiskers plot looks like for this set of numbers. Let's do one more example, and let's put it on the same number line. How about? So let's say I just had 5 numbers, and let's say my 5 numbers were 5, 10, 18, 20, and 25. All right, so let's say this was our set of data. Let's find Q1, Q2, or not Q1, sorry, Q2, well actually Q1, so the min, max, Q1, and Q3. So let's start with the middle number. Here if we cross off, we'll see 18 is the middle. This time 18, our median, is in the data set. So this is our median. To find Q1, we look at everything below the median. So you don't include the 18. We look at everything below. And so let me underline. We're looking at what's the middle in 5 and 10. And if you don't know what the middle of 5 and 10 is, you average them. So let's do that. 5 plus 10 is 15. And take half of 15. And so half of 15 is 7.5. So in this case, Q1 is not in our data set. So let me just rewrite that. Okay, so here this was what, 7.5 is the middle of 5 and 10. And let's do the same thing for Q3. So we're looking at 20 and 25. Well, if you don't know what the middle of 20 and 25 is, you add them up and divide by 2. So 20 plus 25 is 45. And half of 45 is 22.5. So this is 22.5. This is Q3. Here's Q1. And our min is 5 and our max is 25. All right, let's graph that on the same number line. So this time 5 is our min, 25 is our max, and Q1 is at 7.5. Median, or Q2, is at 18, and Q3 is at 22.5. So we can see that this one's a little bit more spread out than the first one. Has a bigger range, has more data points spread out in Q1, or in here's Q1, from Q1 to the median, and so on. So here are 2 good examples of box and whisker plots and finding 5 number summaries.